90.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. I am your host, Kyle Quincy Shareem Vaughn Cedric Parker. It is my delight and privilege to be with you during the day, during the week, and I thank you for joining us here on Guardian Talk Radio. My show today is a conversation I believe that we should have with regard to some of the goings on in our neighborhood of the world. I'm going to start with St. Lucia. And one of the things that we have been dealing with in our local conversation over the last week and change is the government's budget proposals and budget projections. And in St. Lucia, they've just had a change of government. And the new Prime Minister, St. Lucia's new Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre, went on television a day ago to talk to that nation about something critical that is coming up. His government follows an administration that had lowered the excise tax on fuel. And as the cost of oil and fuel has gone up over the last months, years because of COVID-19, and months because of other considerations, and weeks because of what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine, the St. Lucian government has been shielding consumers from high oil prices by eating the increase in costs. And that is a decision that I know that sounds like a good thing. It's actually quite similar to something that BPL was doing in 2018 and 19, when costs for fuel were incredibly high. BPL kept the fuel charge at a certain rate, and I believe that there were some losses incurred due to the fact that the fuel charge was actually more than what BPL was charging consumers. Now, given that fuel is a pass-through charge, that consumers are supposed to pay the fuel cost, whatever it is. I'm sure that BPL and IRCA had some conversations about that. But I just wanted to point out that it's not something that is unheard of here in the Bahamas. But given that we are, like St. Lucia, have just had a change in government, and that the new administration has come to the public square to talk about how it has managed the public purse in the first 6 months, I thought it would be useful to hear from one of our neighbors in CARICOM about some hard decisions that they have had to make. And as I say, Prime Minister Pierre and his party follow an administration that had been using government revenue to shield consumers from high oil prices. And he says a little bit about that in this address that he gave on television. And I want to play about a minute or so of what he said here now, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. So if you could play clip 1 for us, Kermit.
From 2014, the government imposed an excise tax of $2.50 per gallon on the price of fuel. This tax was budgeted to generate revenue, which was programmed to be utilized in the budget allocations. The revenue generated was used in paying government expenses like wages and salaries, goods and services, and transfers. In 2017, the excise tax was increased to $4 per gallon by the United Workers' Party government, with the added $1.50 per gallon expected to generate an additional $20 million in revenue. The UWP government justified the increase in tax by indicating that the additional amount was to be spent on the roads development program. The increase in the imported price of oil on the global market and the corresponding prices paid at the pump indicates that the government is currently earning less than $4 per gallon, and in some cases less than $2.50 per gallon on projected excise tax revenue.
That was St. Lucia Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre, setting up an announcement that the government of St. Lucia has decided to raise the excise tax on oil and fuel because the fact is that without that revenue, or with the revenue that has been foregone because the government has been eating that increase in costs, it has had a significant impact on the ability of the St. Lucian government to offer services for the citizens of the country. Now, Mr. Pierre talked about, well, he said that the government is going to continue the subsidy on cooking gas, but the excise tax on gas and diesel has, well, the increase in the costs of fuel and diesel that have been eaten by the government has led to significant shortfalls in government revenue. And that the price increase, which he which he went on to announce, I think it was the day before yesterday, would have the effect of, at the very least, clawing back some of that government revenue. And in the next clip, he talks about why. So Kermit, if you could play clip 2 for us, please.
Shortfalls in revenue will have serious implications for the government's already strained cash flow and its ability to make critical expenditures in areas such as healthcare, education, social assistance, wages and salaries, and debt payments. Collections from the excise tax on gasoline and diesel are needed to finance government operations, including the provision of supplies to hospitals and health facilities, the management of COVID-19, and the provision of educational equipment and supplies. If retail prices are kept unchanged, these critical government functions and services may be jeopardized to the extent that the government may have to cut or defer expenditure on vital services, increase domestic payables, which were already in excess of $150 million at July 2021, or borrow more or increase income tax. Given the increases in prices in the most recent shipments following the invasion of Ukraine, the government will only collect zero excise tax revenue from fuel, but it will incur a subsidy of 73 cents per gallon on gasoline and 81 cents per gallon on diesel if prices remain the same. This will amount to a subsidy of $1.1 million monthly compared to a targeted positive excise tax revenue of $5.2 million. This subsidy will increase further should international oil prices continue on its upward trend in the short run, if the Russian-Ukraine war escalates and disrupts the global economy even further. We need revenue to provide the needed essential services to the people, but also to increase resources to the police in the fight against the disturbing crime wave. Only recently, we purchased 11 vehicles, but the police are calling for increases in manpower and modern crime detection and enforcement equipment. We all agree that while we demand more from the police, we need to provide the tools to enable them to carry out their duties. I have already announced my intention to increase penalties for firearm offenses as part of a holistic strategy in the fight against crime. If our government was to adopt the $4 per gallon excise taxes as budgeted by the United Workers' Party at current prices, the price of gasoline would be $18.68 and diesel $18.75 per gallon. Government has decided to strike a balance between having to subsidize fuel and protecting the consumer from a very steep increase in prices at the pump. Effective March 21st, 2022, the price of gasoline and diesel will increase by $1 from $13.95 to $14.95 per gallon. The government will continue to subsidize the 20 and 22-pound cylinders of cooking gas. We believe this is the best compromise at this time, which leaves the government with excise tax revenue of only 27 cents on gas and 19 cents per gallon on diesel, much less than the $4 excise tax budgeted by the former government. In these unfortunate times, inflicted on us by circumstances beyond our control, the government remains committed to the prudent management of its finances while endeavoring to mitigate the anticipated pressures of increases in imported goods. Consumers are therefore urged to adjust their consumptions as much as possible to minimize the burden these price increases will have on them.
Thank you, Kermit. So, what the Prime Minister of St. Lucia said there is very, very clear, and I think that it is something that Bahamians should be paying very close attention to. We are, as St. Lucia is, a tourism economy. We've been through the downturn in tourism. We've seen what it looks like when there are no tourists in the country and no tourist dollars in the economy. We've seen the shortfall in our revenue that has amounted to, tens to possibly hundreds of millions of dollars. And we have a government in place that has made a raft of important promises about how they will go about caring for and managing the economy. But what I thought was important about this, and why I wanted to share it with you, is what Prime Minister Pierre talked about when he talked about the fact that the shortfall in revenue would have serious implications for that country's government, which already has a strained cash flow. And the implications come in regard to its ability to make critical expenditures in areas like healthcare, education, social assistance, wages and salaries, and debt payments. So the increase that he's talking about is needed in St. Lucia, again, to finance government operations, including management of the coronavirus, that's the COVID-19 pandemic. So the reason that I share it is because it is clear that in St. Lucia, the new government is dealing with a situation that requires very difficult decisions for a political administration to make, the choice to raise taxes. And the response of the Prime Minister to that reality was to come to the people and lay out his case and explain why the tax needed to be raised, and also give some idea or some undertaking as to what that tax increase would fund. And with that, I'll open the telephone lines. You can call us to discuss what we're talking about today, or to join our discussion at 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-4219. And of course, as always, you can text us at 422-4796. Again, the text line is 422-4796. And I have some questions about what Mr. Pierre said and did that really are just kind of summed up in so sorry, folks. In this way. Given the economic strain and heightened need for government revenue, is the Davis administration contemplating, considering, or planning similar measures in terms of tax increases, whether specifically that's an increase in things like the excise tax on fuel, or in some other way planning to raise taxes in order to obviate the need for government revenue? That's the first question. The second question is, the second question is whether or not, if they are, should they, and if they are not, should the government be increasing taxes in order to raise government revenue in this difficult time, and under what circumstances, right? If it's something like the excise tax on fuel, that's something to consider. And if it is not, where will they find a lever to pull in order to increase the government revenue significantly enough that it will be used or useful in fulfilling their agenda? One of the first things that the Davis administration said, or well, before they became the Davis administration, they talked about the fact that they would not increase taxes. They said no new taxes. There are a number of people who have, excuse me, folks, who have a serious issue with the difference between no new taxes as a campaign promise and the choice of the administration to impose a 10% tax increase on breadbasket items. Do those two statements harmonize with each other? And that's one of the other questions that I have for the administration, right? So, as with St. Lucia, are we planning a tax increase, particularly with regard to fuel, gas, diesel, oil, in order to fund government revenue in a more robust way? Given that, 2 weeks ago, gas was over $120 a barrel, I think it was, and people were forecasting prices like $150, $160 a barrel if the war in Ukraine continued to drag on. I mean, that's, whew. If prices get up there, then a $1 increase at the pump in St. Lucia, that's a joke. We've already seen our prices start to nudge up. If I can believe the reportage of the inimitable Jasper Ward, and of course I do. So where are we going? And I want it to be clear. I'm not suggesting that the government is or is not contemplating such a tax increase. I am simply asking the question because one of our CARICOM neighbors found it necessary so to do. And usually what happens in one CARICOM country is at least partially indicative of the moves that may need to be made by other CARICOM nations. So again, please do not, I don't want anyone to think I'm attacking the administration. I'm just asking the questions. The difference between St. Lucia and Guyana, for instance, Guyana last year reduced the excise tax on fuel in order to make things easier for Guyanese citizens. So the choices are not, they're not black and white. They're not without some nuance, but I'm just curious. When you look at excise tax income in 2021 in the Bahamas, it was $161 million out of the $1.8 billion in government revenue estimated for that fiscal year. So we're not talking about a huge chunk of the government's revenue here, but we are talking about something significant. And given, I want to point out again where St. Lucia is saying that it is experiencing difficulties with regard to its revenue and what that cash flow is affecting. So the strained cash flow is affecting critical expenditures in areas like healthcare, which we have. Well, you know what the situation is with our healthcare system. With regard to education, where we again, the traditional view of our education system is that it needs a ton of money. Social assistance, where the Progressive Liberal Party traditionally is makes its claim to be the strongest advocate of greater social assistance, wages and salaries, and debt payments. Those are all critical areas of government expenditure. Critical at this time. healthcare, particularly in the face of the fight against COVID-19 and trying to come to some sort of new normal. Education for a similar reason. You know, the pandemic has, in my view, irrevocably altered the way we do education in the Bahamas in terms of the actual physical way that education is accomplished. I don't know if it is possible or reasonable to think that everybody is going to go back to full-time in-person instruction. It may go that way, but it may very well not. The pandemic showed us that we can be creative enough to find different modalities to deliver education, incredibly technology-heavy world. We have learned some lessons, and I think those lessons will be very much taken to heart by the authorities as they are. In terms of expenditure on social assistance, anyway, we can leave that one alone. Wages and salaries and public debt payments. I think the importance of those expenditures is self-evident. It's not open for debate. So again, the questions of the government: is the Bahamas government, given the economic strain and heightened need for government revenue, considering similar measures as taken in St. Lucia? Excise tax on fuel has been raised, and that has led directly to an increase on the gas prices at the pump. And if not, should the government increase that tax in order to raise revenue? And if not that tax, is the government considering other tax increases in order to raise revenue in a responsible and sustainable way? I think it's way past time that the Bahamas have the conversation about taxes. We need to have a real conversation about income tax. We need to have a real conversation about some kind of health tax. I know insurance functions as almost like a retirement tax in some ways, and a disability tax in some ways as well. You know, you pay in and you get the benefit of care, either as a disability benefit, a maternity benefit, or retirement benefit. And so we're used to paying that tax directly from our salary. And now we also have added the value-added tax that we're used to paying directly as we purchase goods and services. So our appetite for taxation has been broadened, for direct taxation has been broadened sufficiently that I think a real conversation about these important things, income tax and a health tax and something else, to really and truly deal with the roads properly. Obviously, the intake from the road license, the traffic violations and the road traffic fees to license and register cars and whatnot, that money clearly is insufficient given the state of our roads. So perhaps we need to levy a tax to deal with that. right? It is. I just think that St. Lucia has given us an opportunity to have a legit conversation about taxation for real. And I think that I want to be very clear. Honestly, I do believe that the administration is considering ways of increasing taxes in order to boost government revenue. Whether that is an increase to a tax that is already in place, that given their promise of quote unquote no new taxes, that could be the only thing that they do, unless they're willing to, as Philip J. Pierre did, come to the public space and say the idea that we would not impose new taxes didn't survive our first year in office, and we've decided that we need to introduce this tax, and we need to implement this and increase that, and whatever the case may be. Mike Tyson says it this way: everybody has a fight plan until they get punched in the face. Well, Brave Davis and his posse have been punched in the face. And so their fight plan clearly has to be altered now. And the question is, are they bold enough to come to the public square and say, we need to do some things that we promised, and here's why, here's how, here's what you can expect. Meanwhile, and this one, I think, well, anyway, I was looking around, and because I'm looking around in the Caribbean, I found something that I thought was also relevant to the Bahamas and quite fascinating. And that is that the European Union is attacking the Golden Passport regime, particularly in the region. Now, of course, you know the Golden Passport is the residency by investment. It's a golden visa, not a passport. We don't give a golden passport in the Bahamas. But foreigners may apply for citizenship after 10 years of residence in the Bahamas once they're willing to forego previous citizenship. And the terms are, of course, just in case you're not familiar, applicants for the Bahamas Golden Visa Program have to invest in either real estate or business operation. The minimum investment required at one point was $500,000. I believe it's been raised to $750,000, but I'm not certain of that now. Now that I think about it. But the authorities give real estate investments of at least $1.5 million priority. The investment must be kept for the duration of the visitor's stay in the Bahamas. And that is how we do it. In the last administration, while Ellsworth Johnson was the minister responsible for financial services, the tax residency program to serve as a gateway for more permanent residents for high net worth individuals. And that program granted successful applicants the right to reside in the Bahamas for a period of up to 3 years and gave them a certificate of tax residence. They had to make the Bahamas their home or main residence, living in the country for at least 90 days and declaring that they would spend less than 183 days in any other single country. So we've made a revenue generator a significant revenue generator out of this golden visa / golden passport regime. But the European Union is attacking it. They went to the European Union Parliament I think it's 3 days ago now, passed a law that, well, I will let the president of Antigua and Barbuda, the Honorable Gaston Brown, explain what is happening. Kermit, if you could play clip 3.
Well, the reality is now that CIP programs, citizenship and investment programs in Europe, in the Caribbean, and elsewhere, they're under threat. The European Union would have taken legislation to its parliament a week ago, and they would have passed it, one in which they're giving countries the option to do away with their CIP programs in order to continue to have Schengen visa-free status into Europe, or to continue the program and they stop them from having visa-free access into the Schengen region, which is a difficult situation because if you don't have access into the visa-free access into the Schengen area, then clearly it will undermine the viability of these programs, because a lot of people who literally get our citizenship is also to get access, visa-free access into that region. Prior, Canada was part of it, but as you know, Canada has literally suspended visa-free access for all countries, including Antigua and Barbuda. We were the final casualty of that policy, in which they felt that because we had a CIP program, that they would not continue to allow us visa-free access into Canada. And I can tell you, for example, when we first started in 2014, by about 2015, 2016, I think we got up to about $200 million in 1 year. And that's because Antigua and Barbuda had access, visa-free access into Canada. And then after that, the program fell to about, I think, as low as $67 million in 1 year. And on average, since then, we've been doing about $100 million. Now, if these countries are successful in undermining our CIP program, then I have to tell you it's going to create significant problems for the OECS countries. In the case of Antigua and Barbuda, about 10% of our revenue, or maybe if I'm exaggerating, no more than probably 12-15% comes from CIP. But in some countries within the sub-region, the CIP contributes up to 50% of the annual revenue. So you can imagine the impact in those countries. It would be a very difficult proposition. In fact, the U.S., as you know now, they have 2 congressmen who have decided now to go further and to pass legislation. And one of the provisions is to work in lockstep with the European Union to get them to discontinue the Schengen visa-free access into Europe. So I have taken the opportunity to write to policymakers, parliamentarians in Europe, as well as those 2 congressmen who are now tabling this legislation, to let them know the impact that they're about to inflict on our CIP programs and the impact on our economies. I would have reassured them as well about the type of due diligence that we have in place, in which citizens from these countries who are trying to access citizenship on our program, they have to provide a police report from the country of origin and all the country of residence, or both. They also have to get clearance from Interpol. And there's without fail, a review of their financial background, if they have companies and businesses and so on, to determine the source of income. So the due diligence is robust. And as far as we're concerned, our citizenship by investment programs do not represent any risk to these countries as how they so put it. They're saying if our citizens, including CIP citizens, going to have access, visa-free access into Europe, the European Union countries, then we have to do away with our CIP programs.
Okay.
We have to end them, discontinue them.
Okay.
Now, again, to be clear, the Bahamas does not have a CIP, or citizenship by investment program, but we do have a residency by And our residency by investment program does provide a path to citizenship after 10 years. And that is something that has become a quiet but consistent revenue earner for the Bahamas. As Brown would have said, Antigua and Barbuda got all the way up to $200 million a year, that's US, in terms of revenue from their citizenship by investment program. Ours is, I'm still researching the figure there, so I don't want to fake a number. But the reason that I bring it up again is because in the Progressive Liberal Party's Blueprint for Change, which I have taken as the Dayson's manifesto, their set of promises for the way they are planning to maintain and manage the governance of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The administration promises to, and this is a quote, implement a competitive, robust residency by investment program in line with international best practice, unquote. So it is of concern, of interest, of note that the European Union, which is an increasing source of or an increasing market interest to the Bahamas as we seek to diversify both our tourism and financial services customer base, particularly the Schengen visa region is increasingly or possibly off the table if we continue with this program. And I hear you, Kermit. We need to take a break. Oh, okay, yeah. So we'll go ahead and take a short break right here. I see that text message. Those text messages, and I'll read them when we come back. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to Guardian Radio AM.
One thing there is no debate about is that BTC has the best rates. Now, the best rates just got better because you pay half the price of the other guys with your BTC home internet and mobile services combined. Switching to BTC is a no-brainer because I pay less with BTC and get super fast internet with speeds up to 600 megs. The other guys, their internet only go up to 105 megs.
Get all the half the price when you bundle your home internet and mobile. Visit a BTC store to make the switch today. Conditions apply.
Tuberculosis, also called TB, is a contagious disease that mostly affects the lungs and can sometimes affect other parts of the body. The bacteria that causes TB can be spread when droplets from an infected person is released into the air through coughing or sneezing. Some signs and symptoms of TB include a cough that lasts 3 weeks or longer, pain in the chest, coughing up blood, weakness or tiredness, weight loss, loss of appetite, chills, fever, or night sweats. If you experience any of these symptoms, contact your healthcare provider immediately or contact the Tuberculosis Surveillance Unit at 502-4728 or 502-4803, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. at the Ministry of Health. Tuberculosis is a disease that can be treated and cured.
This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Five-time defending Carifta swimming champions Team Bahamas is headed to Barbados April 16th through 20th for the Carifta Swimming Championships. Show your support for Team Bahamas by placing an ad in the Nassau Guardian special Carifta Swimming Championship section, which will be published on April 4th. This is your chance to congratulate Team Bahamas, the coaches, or an individual swimmer in their quest for a 6th title. For more information, call your Nassau Guardian account executive now at 302-2300, 302-2300, and get your message in our special Carifta Swimming Championship section. Get ready for the 2022 Carifta Swimming Championships and Team Bahamas going for gold again.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking with us here on Guardian Talk Radio. This is Guardian Radio AM. I'm K. Quincy Parker, and it's a pleasure to have you riding along with us today. You can call us. We have a couple of minutes left. It's 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-421-4219. Is that right? No, 4259. Can't even read my own handwriting here. And you can text us at 422-4796. There's a text message here that I needed to read before, can't read the other one. This one says, morning, Mr. Parker. The tax on the gas is sufficient, but they throw it into the black hole called the Consolidated Fund instead of using it for road repair. The more they tax, the more they spend on crony salaries and contracts. I say no more tax increase without income tax. Text to thank you for your contribution. I don't think that, well, I'll just leave it for John Q. Public to respond. No tax increase without income tax, according to that texter. As we close out today, I want to read for you just a little bit of a letter. So this is something I came across during the week. This guy, his name is irrelevant. It says, my abusive parents won't admit what they've done. How can I let go of the pain? And in a letter to Annalisa Barbieri, who is a columnist, I guess advice columnist, this guy says, I'm 43 and father to a wonderful daughter whom I co-parent. I'm skipping through. I've done the work, given myself a shot at my life, and I'm a pretty good parent. My ebullient nature, this man claims to have, post-traumatic stress disorder. And it wasn't until he was 32 that he found the rest of his letter now. He says, my parents will never own the damage they caused and come from horrible backgrounds themselves. Any contact saw them continuing to create a dependent, dysfunctional, and toxic relationship with me as the listener and caregiver. And when I refused, my name was mud. I wish to forgive my parents, but what they did was child abuse. I do not like them as people and have precious little in common with them. When they become frail and need care, I will be involved, my choice. But how do I let go of my resentment? I found that question and the subject to be particularly compelling because over the years, I've had so many conversations with people who really struggling with with similar issues. And I wanted to, oh, sorry. Yes, okay, yeah, sure, let's take that call, fine. Caller, thank you for joining us. You got 3 minutes. We are live on Guardian Radio AM. Hello, caller, you there?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes, caller, you are live on Guardian Radio AM.
I can hardly hear you. I know you only got 3 minutes left. But you know, Mr. Park, I think one of the biggest problems is Sparky. One of the biggest problems on is we don't educate our people. When I was growing up, I've been handling this income tax, but we always talk about that America has income tax. We keep using these words and everything, but do we teach the people as to what income tax is all about? Do we teach it in the schools? We just hear the same thing. It seems to be talking these things, and they're the only people that benefit, but they don't pay income tax. But they're telling us all what we need to do and stop doing and start doing and everything. Nothing ever changes no matter which regime come in. We can just keep going around and around the mulberry bush. And the people over the hill, I would say the south side of the hill, they keep waiting. Salaries remain the same, and every couple of minutes we hear there's a new tax. There's this percent up, that percent up. But we should be going down the well, and everybody comes every time. It's our time, the people's time. It's a new day. It's just all we got is these bunches.
Whoa, okay. I understand Sparky's passion. I really do. Because, yeah, it's like that sometimes. Okay, I guess we're out of time. So next week, or the next time we get together, I'll finish this parenting in the Bahamas and how to deal with relationships with parents that have gone sour, and we'll try and get somebody on to really dive into how an income tax, what it is, and how it would work in the Bahamas. Thank you for joining us on Guardian Radio AM. You are awesome. Have a wonderful day. I believe you are about to be pumped as the revolution with the inimitable Juan McCartney is up next. So God bless, and we'll see you all again.